Good afternoon. Welcome to the Safe and Welcoming Schools Professional Development Live Webinar Series. Today, we are so fortunate to have 4 Teachers of the Year. The topic for today is Navigating a Pandemic, Interactive Classroom Strategies. So now I am going to turn it over to Jewel Forbes, who will introduce our first Teacher of the Year. Jewel.
Thank you, Janice. Good afternoon, everyone. And now a little bit about our first speaker. Joan Hammond began her journey with the Wilsona School District as a parent volunteer in her oldest daughter's kindergarten class in 1986. She continued helping everywhere she could as her other 2 daughters began attending Vista San Gabriel and the Challenger Middle School. As she worked with students in each classroom, their teachers commented that she should become a teacher. Joan wasn't sure she could do that, as she had never even been to college. Joan stated that dear teachers and other staff members continued to encourage her as she enrolled and struggled through years of classes. Joan received invaluable experience as she became an instructional assistant and was able to work with some of the best models of excellent teaching anywhere. Joan earned her bachelor's degree and was hired to teach 2nd grade as an intern at Wilsona District. The Wilsona District family continued to encourage and guide her. After earning her credentials, she began taking on more responsibility. Joan was elected union treasurer and then became the school student study team coordinator. She survived a year of severe layoffs, was selected teacher of the year, and moved to the 4th grade team. Joan became the grade level chair and then trained to become the mentor for new teachers navigating the induction program to obtain their credential. Joan states that she owes her huge debt of gratitude to those precious teachers who saw something in her and that she didn't see in herself. She is honored to represent her school and district as the Teacher of the Year. Welcome, Joan Hammond.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for joining in today. Since returning to in-person learning, there are many things to consider to help us reacclimate our students to that classroom instruction. Building relationships between teachers and students is important, but building relationships between students and other students is a crucial part of the process. Next slide, please. When preparing for these small group activities, we want to do some planning. Determine which types of groups you may wish to use. There may be times when you allow your students to choose their own groups, but that often leads to students interacting with the same people every time. In order to learn how to work with different people, you'll want to develop some groups ahead of time. Look at the ability levels to ensure that you have all levels in each group. I have several pre-planned groups in my classroom and use different colors and shapes of stickers to help them quickly identify which group they will work with for the upcoming activity. Next slide, please. Collaboration is a skill that will be needed throughout our students' education and career. Learning to work with others, to share their own ideas, and listen to others is key to building these skills and social relationships, especially after being isolated during the pandemic. Next slide, please. One of the activities that you'll see later in my video is building a tower. There are different versions of this activity using different materials. You can adapt it to whatever you have available. Students are given the guidelines and supplies along with time to plan and discuss how they will approach their challenge. I have a timer projected on my board to help with time management, and I circulate to help referee if necessary. This collaborative planning works on the skills of self-management, taking turns, and recovering from failure. The most important part is when we celebrate everyone's effort at the completion. Next slide, please. Research shows us that our students have different learning strengths, including a variety of learning modalities increases the chances that our students will be engaged in learning and retain the information being presented. The next activity has become a routine part of our weekly vocabulary review and includes visual, oral, verbal, and kinesthetic involvement. Next slide, please. Jump Stomp is a fun way to learn or review any words to practice spelling and or meaning. The only preparation is having the focus words printed on cards and space for students to be able to do the movements. We review the rules for the game each time for reinforcement. I show the students the word, we read the word together, then spell the word out loud. As we say each letter, the students jump if it's a consonant and stomp if it's a vowel. Then we reread the word and discuss the meaning. If there's time, we also share examples of using the word in a sentence. During this time, there is opportunity for informal assessment and immediate intervention. Next slide, please. The final activity I'd like to share with you today takes minimal preparation as well. It involves a group of students working together to solve a math problem, kind of like a relay race. I've seen huge growth in students' problem-solving skills, as well as an increase in empathy and encouragement as they coach each other through each step. As teachers, we know that sometimes for a student to be able to fully grasp a concept, they may need to learn from one of their peers. Unfortunately, they sometimes tune out what the teacher is saying during instruction. This activity results in full engagement of everyone in the group. Next slide, please. For this activity to be successful, each step to solve the math problem must be established ahead of time. So you might need to practice this with individuals first. The group decides who will go first. Once the problem is shared, I can project it or I can just tell it to them out loud. The first team member works through the first step of the problem while the other kids coach and encourage. Once that step is finished, they hand off the marker to the next person. This process continues until the problem has been solved and checked. Once everyone has completed their problem, I go over the steps for groups to check their work. There are many ways we work together every day to build relationships with our students and between our students. I hope I've given you some ideas that you can use in your classroom. Thank you for attending.
Kane Miller Elementary School in Burbank Unified School District. She previously taught in Virginia before moving to California, where she is currently in her 10th year of teaching. Erica teaches English language arts, math, social studies, science, art, and PE. She is committed to establishing a safe and welcoming community for all of her students, where they are free to make mistakes and be themselves. Thank you, Erica.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Erica Dent. I'm a second grade teacher at Joaquin Miller Elementary School. And today I'm going to share some elementary strategies for how to create a safe space for students at the beginning and at the end of the day. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to share is how I implement morning meeting, closing circle in my classroom, and then I will share the positive effects that I have seen in my students from those two things. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we do is to start our day is we have a morning meeting, and it really sets the tone for the entire day. Responsive classroom morning meeting is an engaging way to start each day, build a strong sense of community, and set children up for success socially and academically. There are 4 main components of morning meeting. They are the morning message, a greeting, sharing activity, and a group activity. And for this presentation, I'm going to focus on the greeting and the sharing. Next slide, please. Okay, so when the students come in the morning, we all gather on the carpet in a circle to greet each other one by one. And I really wanted to, at the start of the year, figure out a way to bring in the students' individuality into the classroom. And immediately I noticed that there were so many different languages represented in the classroom. And I felt that this would be a great way to tie the students' like home life and culture into our classroom by using those languages as our morning greeting. So what I did was if the student felt comfortable, they could share what language they were fluent in or a language that they spoke at home. And they taught the whole class how to say good morning in that language. And we just kept track of all of those different languages and posted them around our room. And each day we chose a language and we learned how to say good morning in that language as we went around the circle and greeted one another. And then the next day we would choose a different language until we had a total of 7 or 8 languages that students could choose from to greet one another. And it's a simple, we go around the circle, we say good morning in that language, and we also use that friend's name. And it's just, I've noticed how excited the students were, just that their language was represented and supported and just celebrated in our classroom. And it's something that is still posted in our classroom. Every day they can choose a different language to greet one another in. And then just to tie in the greeting and the share, after the students greet one another, then they could share how are they feeling today and why. And I've realized that it's a great way just to quickly check in with the students to see how are they coming to me in the morning. Are they happy? Are they sad about something, angry, anxious about something that has happened? And I can check in with them later, maybe pull them to the side and say, hey, I noticed that you said that you were sad this morning. Like, what's going on? Are you comfortable sharing with me? So just a great way to check in. And also the feeling shared just lets them know that it's okay not to be okay. And I model that with my own self, like those mornings when I'm just not feeling it, I'm open and honest with that too. Oh, today I'm feeling a little sad, or today I'm feeling okay. And that lets them know if they see me doing that, they're like, oh, okay, it's okay for me to also to share that if I want to. Next slide, please. So just like we share at the very beginning of the day with morning meeting, we also close our day with the closing circle. So it's just a great way to wrap up the day. Closing circle brings a sense of calm, safety, and community to students and teachers. And at the beginning of the year, 2 of my awesome colleagues shared with me how they use the 3 A's in their closing circle. And immediately I knew I wanted to be able to implement it with my students. And the 3 A's stand for appreciation, apology, and an aha. So an appreciation is, did someone do something nice for you throughout the day? Was someone your partner? The students can share that with the class. An apology, if they did something or said something that upset someone else and didn't get a chance to apologize yet, they could also use that time to share an apology. And then lastly, an aha, if they learned something new or they were just really excited about an activity that we did throughout the day, they could also share that at that time. And what I love about the closing circle is that everyone is included. No one is sitting out, no one gets taken out of closing circle. It's just a very positive moment where everyone can share something about their day. And we always make time for it. Even if we are running out of time, there's 5 minutes to dismissal, we'll still sit in our circle. And if we don't have time to go all around, then I just have the students share with the 2 people on either side of them, just so that we're still able to close up our day. And like I said, everyone is included and everyone is able to share. Next slide, please. So some of the positive effects that I've noticed in my classroom by implementing morning meeting and closing circle, one just being that strong sense of belonging. Students feel a part of the classroom community. They know that their culture, their languages are celebrated, are welcomed within our classroom. everyone is a part of morning meeting, everyone is a part of closing circle. If someone comes in late in the middle of morning meeting, we wait for them to join us, and they also have an opportunity to share. Just a sense of comfort. Students feel comfortable sharing their true feelings, if they are feeling just okay, if they are mad, sad, or even energized. I have a number of students who like to share when they are energized. Positivity, just being able to calmly begin and end the day. If, for example, in closing circle, if there's ever a situation where I'm like, oh man, they were really talkative today, I would really save that for our morning meeting the next day, just to keep that positivity, a positive way to end the day. And what I may do is during our morning meeting and our share, after they greet each other, say, wow, I realized that we were kind of talkative today. Let's go around, and after we greet each other, share one way we can be more focused today. So that way it's right there in the forefront of their mind, and they have the rest of the day to work on it, as opposed to at the end of the day, and then they go home and forget about it. And then lastly, just the students' feelings are valid. They know that it's okay if they're not feeling okay that day, but then also when they are apologizing to one another. I know little kids especially like to, when someone apologizes to them, they like to say, well, it's okay. Well, if someone pushed you to the ground at recess, like, that's not okay. Like, you know, if someone apologizes for that, you can say, well, I accept your apology. Please don't do that again. And just letting them know that you don't have to say that it was okay. And then also just teaching students that others may need time to process that before they accept an apology. I had a situation where a student was trying to apologize to someone that someone's feelings that they hurt, and he just needed a moment. He was still upset, and she was like, I'm trying to apologize, and he's walking away. And I'm like, well, he just needs that time to process, and that's okay. And you have to give him that space. And when he's ready, you can try that again. And I've just really noticed that the students, just their comfort level, and they are able to share their feelings, or they're able to say, well, not right now, and can come back later and share. And all of these things, the morning meeting, the closing circle, the 3 A's, the language greeting, all of those are very simple to implement. Even if you just wanted to go around the circle and say, good morning, the students are being greeted, they're feeling welcome, and just that positive way to end the day as well with the closing circle. And I believe that if you do implement these things, you will also see some of these positive effects as well. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. And I hope that you heard something that you're able to take away today and implement in your classroom. Thank you.
8th and 9th grade mathematics teacher in middle school math and high school Algebra 1 courses at Franklin Dual Enrollment Academy Magnet on the campus of Benjamin Franklin High School in Los Angeles. He has also taken on the role of being the ASB school leadership teacher this school year. Mr. Myung has been a teacher for over 16 years now, and one of the greatest joys he experiences in teaching is when his former students return to share their stories of success with him. Jason Myung has a Bachelor of Arts degree in the field of mathematics and completed his teacher preparation at California State University of Los Angeles. He is born and raised in Los Angeles and is an alumnus of Los Angeles Unified. Welcome, Mr. Myung.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Did you ever hear the term the greatest show in reference to a movie? Or if you're from Los Angeles, perhaps our even local football team, the Rams? Well, guess what? To me, the greatest show is you and your classroom. We perform 4 to 5 days a week and go year round, having to entertain the same audience day in and day out. Our show is the greatest because we learn to adapt in a matter of minutes and not only draw in our audience, but guide them towards understanding along the way. Here's another point that makes our show great and unique. Every day, we must learn to push aside our own personal issues or setbacks as we put on a happy face, ready to help our students excel both in the classroom and in life. We make connections and bond with our students that may last for a lifetime, unlike these other self-proclaimed greatest shows. Next slide, please. As our students enter into the classroom, I've always found it to be great practice in standing outside in the hallways to greet them individually as they walk into the room. Here, students can easily just tap the door icon where you see there in the photo, and then you can get a sense of feel how they are without a word ever being said as they enter your classroom. Or you can take a look at them as they walk through the doors and you get a glimpse at their expressions, whether it be a facial expression or if they have their masks on, their body movement. Some students might have had a rough time at home the evening before, or they might have just woken up from a nap in their previous class. And so bringing an energetic hello or a reminder of what they're expected to do when they enter through your class doors will help them to refocus or better prepare them when they actually hear the bell to start the class day. Next slide, please. So let's transition now into the start of the period. How can we get immediate buy-in from our students as we keep them active? A quick check-in is what I like to do. Simple hand gestures on the count of 3 is what I will tell them. They know that if they put up 5 fingers in the air, that means they're feeling great about today. They're ready to get started. If they put 2 fingers in the air, that means that they're not super excited, but they're ready to learn and they're hopeful that by the end of the period, they'll be up to 5 fingers again. Then we have our fist in the air. Students are honest, they put their fists in the air and that represents that something is off or they're having a not so good day. However, they're here in class and they're willing to fight through their issues and put them aside and do what's best to stay focused. Next slide, please. Now that we have an idea of where our students' mindsets are, we go into the lesson or activity of the period. Here I give students ample opportunity to work with their peers and practice their 21st century skills in communication and collaboration. This gives me an opportunity to also circulate around the classroom and speak to an individual or group and see what depth of understanding they have or answer any of their questions. One key point that I've learned over the years is that if you have a student that struggles, it is best to sometimes take a knee or go down to their level and see them eye to eye rather than speak from up above. For whatever reason, I found that students respond better to that simple body gesture as they feel that they're now equal with the teacher and they're less insecure about their struggles. Next slide, please. As we keep in mind about all our students, we must note that every child learns differently. What was easy for us when we were students might not be the case for them. We need to keep growth mindset as a focal point and allow our students to develop over time. Now, there are many ways to go about this, but one simple way that I have learned to include into my daily routine is to set soft deadlines for assignments, especially during this pandemic. Students might need a little more time, or they're having other issues going on in their life since they have come back from the pandemic. So it's important to continue to show them empathy, but also show them compassion and meeting our students' needs. I learned that by setting some soft deadlines, it helps keep the students on pace, but it allows those that need to have some additional time to catch up or come in and ask for additional assistance during tutoring hours if they need. Next slide, please. Now, sometimes we have to actually keep the pace of the class moving and the lesson moving. And when we do so, it's not as easy to have a group check or individual check on where they're at. So one quick way of checking in with students is using 3 simple thumb gestures. You can use these 3 simple thumb gestures and you can get a quick read on where they are. This allows them to keep interactive and it entertains them, making this show much more memorable. Here we have a thumbs up, I get it. A thumb sideways, I'm struggling a little bit, or a thumbs down, meaning I need more help or I need another lesson. And this indicates to you instantly where they are. Next slide, please. Next and last, we have what's important, and that's like any other good show, is to allow your audience to give feedback. This exit ticket that you can easily create online with a Google form allows students to click here and there, take a few minutes, and give you instant feedback to how they feel about your lesson. Next slide, please. And you can then later in the evening go back and check your students' feedback and see if you think your students are ready for their next act. Or you might even think you need to do a rerun of the lesson, but put in some twists or some new ways of thinking about it to hopefully have them understand it better. These exit tickets are meant to be simple and allow students to freely express themselves so that we can keep an open dialogue throughout the entire school year. Buy-in is always important to make a show into the greatest show. Next slide, please. Next one, please. I would like to close by saying thank you to LACOE for this opportunity and everyone for attending this afternoon. We all had a choice and you chose to be here with us today. And so I thank you for being a dedicated professional, but more importantly, an educator that is always looking to continue to better ourselves for the students. A show cannot be great if there is no audience. And since we are always trying to perform the greatest show day in and day out, your passion and dedication is what will make the students love you, not only as a teacher, but they will remember you more for being the person giving them a lesson and showing them the meaning and the true ways of life. I thank you all very much.
People to acquire dreams, drive, confidence, and skills. For 3 decades, Clipbout has used his position as a teacher, coach, and advisor to challenge all students to develop these foundations, and he works at the school and district level to implement research-backed reforms. Clipbout currently teaches 11th grade advanced placement, United States history, and coaches swimming at Saugus High School in the William S. Hart Union High School District. He has supported STEM via his Science Olympiad team, career paths with the journalism program, and struggling 9th graders with a teamed intervention approach. Clipbout's primary motivation to teach is to ease the challenges of growing up and getting an education. He believes students thirst for caring mentors to drive them towards their potential. Clipbout thanks his mentors for his professional accomplishments and welcomes the opportunity to pay that favor forward to students and colleagues. Jim, it's all yours now.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and I'm humbled to be with everyone today. Given our current challenges, this is a great topic to discuss. And thank you to my 3 amazing colleagues for all of their inspiring suggestions earlier. Because the campus and community at Saugus have recently experienced fire evacuations, a school shooting, and COVID, I am personally determined to be an advocate for safe schools with an emphasis on mental health. I believe attitude is a choice, and I choose strength. I choose to crave Mondays, and I can't wait to serve kids every day. And this is not an easy time to grow up, and students need us more than ever. Safe and inviting schools are essential, and today I'd like to share 5 strategies that I use to promote this. My first strategy for happy and healthy students is to model that joy comes from serving others. We must lead by example. Kids must see us give and serve and lead, and we must encourage them to join us or serve others in some way. With my students, I model this by raising guide dogs, leading students at American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, building homes for veterans with my Habitat for Humanity Club, and other methods as well. Giving to others can be the best mental health medicine. If you reflect on unhealthy behaviors of young people, consider that these don't generally occur after volunteering or giving. Next slide, please. My paradigm is that kids desperately need us and that we need to constantly grow and improve as teachers, coaches, and mentors to better serve them. Students need mentors who will love and support them while holding them accountable. They need the pom-pom and bullwhip, as I call it. To me, that means limitless support and appropriate and high expectations. Kaizen is the Japanese term for unrelenting improvement. And I think that speaks to a teacher's need to constantly strive to improve our service to the young. Students cannot love and learn if they don't feel filled with love and hope. And to address this, my second strategy is to intentionally teach mental health. I use what I call mental health moments. I purposely insert these 3 or 4 times a week into my classes. And I believe we must use FaceTime, instructional time, to give our students tools and life hacks to find a successful and happy life. Next slide, please. My third strategy for safe and inviting schools is to emphasize what really matters: our health, relationships, memories, reputation, and skills. I like to say that just about everything else you can buy on Amazon. Just about everything else is a byproduct, not a goal. And we need to put things in perspective for students. AP scores, transcripts, colleges, jobs, etc. They do matter, but we must find balance and schedule and prioritize what matters most. When we deliberately emphasize these 5 goals, much of life's stress diminishes, and this fuels good mental health and creates a safer and more welcoming environment. Next slide, please. My fourth strategy for improving student mental health is to intentionally teach time management. I personally endorse Stephen Covey's idea of roles and goals and the calendars that go along with it. This means that we must show students how to identify what hats they wear as a friend, a sibling, a student, an athlete, etc. What roles do they have in life? We must then invite them to set goals to be successful in each of those areas during the next week or 2 or quarter or semester or year or years. Then we schedule these goals and we implement them into a calendar. We have to live beyond a simple to-do list. This type of planning takes time, and we need to build this into our instructional time. Life is easier and more successful when we have dreams and specific goals, and this type of calendar encourages a more balanced and joyful life, making it easier to learn. Next slide, please. In addition to the dreams and goals mentioned with the last slide, I think kids need toughness, strength, resilience, or whatever you choose to call it. And I believe that with strengths and dreams, kids can accomplish just about anything. So my fifth strategy for a safe school with quality mental health is to intentionally teach that challenges and setbacks make us stronger, and that new strength that comes with that gives us advantages for life's next challenge. Students need love and support and patience, lunch, second chances, and appropriate expectations. But in the end, they need the toughness that helps them get through that. On my slide, you can see references to things like sandcastles. We know when we build a sandcastle, it's going to be washed away. And we need to look at life's challenges that way. You'll also notice the choice I often quote there. Are we going to be tough, or are we going to be miserable? Are we going to choose strength or misery? And that's a really good way to clearly put that to young people that empowers them. And I believe we must teach and promote the skill of toughness as part of our journey. Next slide, please. To summarize my thoughts and philosophy, I'll mention the expert. During the Montgomery bus boycott, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s house was bombed. And following the event, he was asked by a reporter, "Are you afraid?" And he answered, "No, I am not." And he went on to talk about, how he is willing to forgive and be brave and put bigger things in life ahead of his individual security. And I think students need to see and hear this from heroes like Dr. King and from their role models in a daily life. I think we need to be inspired by people like King and pass that on. And ultimately, we need to enable the dreams of our students by promoting their mental health, balance in their lives, and strength. It's been an honor to share some ideas with you. Thank you very much.
So now we are going to open up the chat bar for any questions, comments, and be sure to add to who you would like to direct the question to. So Joan Hammond, Erica Dent, Jason Mayung, and James Clipfield. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan and Joel to be able to facilitate the Q&A portion of the live webinar.
So if you have any questions, go ahead and you can put them in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we can direct them to whoever the question is for. So thank you for all four of you doing your presentation. So the question is, let's see. Okay. So a question is, Erica, what are some things that you do in the morning meeting?
Yes, thank you for that question. So when the students come in, I already have a morning message on the board. So that was that first component. So a morning message, just like welcoming the students into the classroom and just giving them a little snippet of what we're going to be working on throughout the day. You know, maybe it's like, okay, yesterday we learned one math strategy. Today we're going to learn another one. Later we'll talk about whatever it is. And then just like a little letter to the students. And then we jump right into, we read the message, we get in our circle, we do our language greeting, our share, and then, you know, some type of fun like activity. It could be just like a little game, like they like to play a game called Buzz, like a counting game. So that's what our morning meeting looks like. And then we will go over like our actual schedule going down, what they can expect for the day.
Thank you, Erica. And here's a question for both secondary teachers, for Jason and Jim. How do you address students who lack motivation?
Jason, you want to go first?
Sure. I personally run into that all the time. There are many students that lack motivation, but I think it's something that starts from the very beginning of the school year, where you have to have them buy in. You have to try to connect with them and basically have them see you not as a teacher, but try to be a human being to them, show them empathy. Once you get them to feel safe and secure and buy in and understand that you're here to help them, not just scold them or ridicule them, I've had great success. There are going to be days where those kids still come in, and instead of yelling at them, just like I would pull them aside and say, "You're having a bad day. Let's let you sit down to the side. Let's talk about it if you want. And then we're going to go and come back tomorrow, and let's be kind of recharge and let's go at it and try it again." And then the next day I just see them again and I'll say, "You good? Are we ready to go?" That has been not 100% successful for me, but it has worked for most of my students. I can say in that.
Thank you, Jason. Jim, do you have anything to add?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, when kids come into my room, I overwhelm them with just sort of the crazy attitude of how exciting it is to be alive. And I literally will tell them, you guys should be so excited about your future that you can't sleep nights. And obviously that's hyperbolic because sleep is critical to them growing, but I want them to understand the inertia behind them right now. And if you recall, a few minutes ago, I mentioned the roles and goals calendar. At the bottom left of the calendar, I always have them list themselves as the last role or hat they wear. And that is where each week they should be reading an article on 20 careers that involve animals, if they like animals, or 10 careers that don't exist yet, and setting up an interview with their veterinarian if they want to go that direction. They should be told to use minutes in their precious youth to be investigating and reading. And that's one beauty of the internet that I think is going neglected. So it's to intentionally remind them weekly of how important it is to find that dream. And then, as I said before, toughness and a dream. If a kid has both, they're ready for anything. And if they don't have one or both, we have to intentionally build that into the day. And that might mean less math, Spanish, or history.
Thank you. Just a shout out. So that your strategies that you presented are inspirational, and really, I don't have any questions, but a shout out to all of you. Thank you. Another question. Have you encountered students that were upset about coming back to school during a pandemic, and how have you handled the emotions with students? And that's open to any of you.
Well, I'll jump in. At Saugus, we not only dealt with coming back after the pandemic, but after fire evacuations and a terrible school shooting. And for me, it was to meet them with the awareness of grief and trauma and sharing anecdotes of our own experience that not only allows them to feel what they're feeling, but also to give them very inspiring anecdotes. And I can recall the exact story I began with when we came back after the school shooting. Anything to make them feel okay being where they're at, but also realizing that when we come out of a traumatic or challenging experience, big or small, we can choose to be worse, the same, or better. And so I think it's critical to remind kids, come out better. That's the only option I see. And hopefully if you come at it with that approach, that really inspires kids to look at things as positive, and it empowers them that they're driving the bus. They're not sitting in the back as a passenger.
Thank you, Jim. This one is for Jason. Have you ever had children refuse to share their feelings as they enter the classroom? And if so, how do you deal with that?
It does happen. It does happen where you have kids. We in LAUSD just finally came off our masks last week, but you have kids that come in with their hoods. They have their masks fully covered. It's really difficult to get a read on them. And these are the students that you want to reach out to, but you don't want to create a scene. These are students where I will just teach my lesson. And then as I circulate the room, I'll go and I'll kneel down, because I think kneeling down not only helps make it a lot calmer for them, but it also lets it be easier to whisper to them. And I'll say, is everything okay? How are you feeling? And they'll typically give me an answer like, I don't want to be talked to today, or I'm just not having a good day. So I've created, since the beginning of the school year, a rapport with them where I think most of them feel comfortable. I would say 99% feel comfortable in telling me how they are, and they know that I will adjust and adapt to their needs, as long as they understand they can't overuse my empathy and try to step over me. And the next day we'll be back to a brand new slate and trying all over again. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Jim, or Jason. How has you adapted your in-person procedures and or strategies to assist students that are still on virtual learning? And that can be anyone.
We don't have students that are virtual learning any longer in the within our school. They're either live with us or they've gone to another special school for virtual learning. But when I do have students that were out with COVID, or I've had students that were just homesick, or someone in their family was out, I've had my lessons live while streaming on Zoom. Students are still able to attend my classes. They to be honest, they were still marked absent by our district policy, but they were still attending Zoom, listening to our lessons, participating, following along. And then my assignments are asynchronous, where they can do it from home and they can work online and they get instant feedback. I have some neat programs in which we use, and students are able to keep up. And if they don't, then when they come back to school, we're able to help them. I work with them in groups so they collaborate with one another. So that's how I've been kind of using some virtual learning and And what we learned during the pandemic, I apply it to what we have still going on right now.
Thank you. Some more questions. Jim, when you take students into the community to serve others, what steps are needed? Is this going through students who belong to a club, or is this a class activity, and how do you approach that?
Well, I've done all of the above. So if it's through your classroom, then I'm just going through administrative protocols, making sure that all the permission slips are done, et cetera. If it's through a club like our Habitat for Humanity Club that I run, you know, I make sure certain names are added to the district's insurance riders, and we meet all the requirements, both of the district and the build sites for the Relay for Life and things like that. The American Cancer Society has their own waivers and permission slips. So you do want to be very careful that you follow all the necessary protocols, but it would be sad if we use that as an excuse to not get kids out of school and out of the classroom for just general field trips, but then also for community service. So be brave and be willing to deal with a little bit of the bureaucracy, and it's totally worth it.
Thank you. Here's another one for you, Jim, with your dog. It says, how do we get approval to have a guide dog in the classroom? What is the process? I think it would be very calming and supportive for students.
That's a good question. So my wife and I have been with Guide Dogs of America, which is down in Sylmar, and we've been working with them for about 5 years. And in our school district, the Hart District, you simply need approval from your site administrator. And then there is some district paperwork that we fill out. And because of the unique situation at Saugus of the last few years, there's a variety of students on campus who have support dogs. And there are a few counselors that have them as well. So we're inundated with these Labradors and hounds. And it's just really a great way to bring the temperature down and deal with that. But there definitely are steps to take with whatever agency you're going through. In this case, for me, it's Guide Dogs of America and your school site.
Thank you. For all of you, how do you recharge as educators and ensure that you too practice self-care? And how can your supervisor continue to support your growth?
I'd like to speak to that if I may. This is Joan Hammond. So oftentimes as educators, we can see some short-term goals, but we don't always see results. We pour into other people and we don't always see results. So one way that I take care of myself is I volunteer at our local high school with their music program. While I teach these kids all day, then I go to the high school after school and work with the band kids and the color guard kids. In fact, I saw probably some of Jim's kids last week or the weekend before at a percussion and color guard competition. And so I'm really involved with that, and I can see immediate results then. I work with those kids, and sometimes I get to work again with kids that I worked with when they were in elementary school. I think it's really important for you to find something that you love to do besides what's teaching that helps to feed your soul and to give back to the community as well. And as far as getting support from my administrators, I just want to make sure that I have the time that I need to collaborate with my team to be able to plan activities and lessons and to work with each other to support one another to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for our kids.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Erica, how long are morning meetings, and would you see this working at a high school level? I don't know, Jim, maybe you can chime in on that, but Erica, if you can talk about your morning meetings.
Yes, I definitely can see this at a high school level. You can definitely tweak it to, for older kids. And my morning meeting takes about 10 to 15 minutes, depending, usually when we do like a quick share, I mean, that goes quickly. If I'm asking them like, how are you feeling and why? Of course, that takes a little longer. The students want to give a whole story. So it just depends, but yeah, between like 10 or 15 minutes, it doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't have to be anything long. If you need to shorten it and not do a group activity and just do a morning message, the greeting and a share, you can do that. You really can mold it in a way that works best in your classroom.
Thank you. So a question that any of you can answer is what strategies do you use for including special needs students?
I'll jump in. For me, it's just reaching out to them and making them feel and genuinely feel that they are the most important student in front of you. It's the greeting, it's the engagement, it's the excitement, it's the automatic accommodations, it's the sense of everybody's got their own challenges, that comfort level. It's just creating that thirst that they can't wait to get up the next morning and get in front of you. It's making it feel like a home, that they're just a brother or sister in this group, and they're as special, but no more special than everybody else, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address any strategies that you may use?
I think Jim's answer was on point, and it's hard to top that. But going back to my presentation, adjusting and adapting to our students' needs and giving them ample amount of time so they're not frustrated or overwhelmed, showing them the love and the passion that they need, and saying, you're going to get it. And if you get it quicker, even better. And if you need more time, you're going to get it. And we're not here to give up on you. We're here to continue to strive and be here to support you.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, so some just comments. Thank you, Ms. Hammond, for finding your passion. And also well said, Jim, about special needs students, and Jason as well. So thank you. And I think this looks like, so someone said adapting is the word of the day. Where is the world of the word? Is the word of the day. Okay, I'm being challenged here. So adapting is the word of the year. Thank you. Yes, that adaptation. So I'd like to thank all of you for your sharing your talents and your passion today. It has been absolutely great. And I can say I've learned something from all of you that I can take away and implement. And thank you again so much. I'm going to turn this over back to Janice Phelps. And someone said they love Kaizen, Jim, and thank you for that word as well. Janice, your turn.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you to Joan, Erica, Jason, and Jim for sharing your expertise with us this afternoon. We can just tell the passion that you have for students and you have for teachers.